right. So we're going to go through section 3.2 today. And before we start, I want to remind you of one important symbol or concept from the last lesson. That one important item was the negation. Recall that the symbol for a negation was that tilde. Okay? So that's the first item that you need to remember. And then there are two that I'm going to talk about right now. The first is known as a conjunction. A conjunction is or has the symbol that looks like an upside down V. Okay? All conjunctions are connected with the word and. The other one that's new is a disjunction. That is a V. That's connected with the word or. Okay? So those are, one is a review. The other two are new for the day. Conjunction and, upside down V. Disjunction or V. All right? So let's take a look at this. What's the point of all those? Well, the point of them is to be able to take word or statements and put them completely into symbolic form. Let's take a look at our problem here. So they say that the letter P represents the statement, the stove is hot. They say the letter Q represents the statement, this is an octopus. What they want us to do is turn the following statement, the stove is hot, and this is an octopus, into a symbolic statement. So a moment ago, I said that the word and means a conjunction. The word or means a disjunction. You can see that in this problem, we have the word and in there, meaning that we're going to be using a conjunction to describe our answer. I'll put it right here. Okay? So there's going to be a conjunction that is in our symbolic statement. Okay? Then simply look at the items in front and behind that and, before and after the and, to determine what symbols go in front. So let's take a look. The stove is hot. That's going to be P. This is an octopus. Q. And there you go. And that's your answer. P, and the way you would say this is P conjunction Q, or P and Q. Does that make sense? Any questions about that at all? Pretty straightforward. All right, wonderful. Let's move on to the next item. All right, let's take a look at this one. So in this problem, they say P is, it is Tuesday. Q represents the statement, it is time to sleep. They give you the actual problem. It is Tuesday and it is not time to sleep. Let's go put that into a symbolic statement. So let's kind of read this differently this time. Let's just go left to right. It is Tuesday. What's that? P, right? And is what? Conjunction. Good. It is not time to sleep. Is it just Q? It's negation or tilde Q. There's your answer. Does that make sense? Any questions about that at all? Any questions at all about that? Okay. Oh, I guess we do. All right. Very good. Let's keep going. All right. Here we go. So on this next one, you're tall, but I'm not short. Let me help you with that. The word but goes with conjunctions. So you can treat the word but like and. it goes as a, or is represented using the upside down V. It is conjunction. Okay, so let's take a look at this. You're tall, what's that? Q. It doesn't always have to be starting with the P term, right? Don't get thrown off by that, it's not a big deal. If it says you're tall and that comes first, then that's what goes first. Except for later in this lesson, when we get to a little bit more complicated items with conditional statements and biconditionals, that's where it gets a little bit tricky. But here we go. The word but, what is that? Conjunction. And then I'm not short would be what? Negation or tilde P. And there's your answer.
Is the not a negation? Like the word not? So like, is the...
Oh, yeah.
Negation?
Well, I mean, that's kind of, I mean, we kind of discussed that last class, right?
I was making...
So not for us here, or not, or the lack of a not. It just depends on the statement, right? So for example, if this statement said I'm not short, like P is I'm not short, then it would just be P.
Right.
Does that make sense? Negation is just opposite, right? Still the opposite. Okay. So it still stands for the opposite, just like we talked about last section. All right, let's take a look at this next one. All right, on this next one, it says it is Tuesday or I work hard. So what's it is Tuesday? P is it is Tuesday. The word or, is that a conjunction? No, we now move on to the second item, which is disjunction. When we see the word or, it's a V, right? Or a giant V, and then I work hard, just a standard Q. So P or Q, this is stated as P disjunction Q, P or Q. Either one of those is fine. Any questions about that at all? Okay, let's keep on going. All right, let's take a look at this one. I do not work hard. What's that? Negation P. P is I work hard, so I do not work hard would be the negation of that. Or disjunction. I go to the gym. Q. Negation P, disjunction Q, that's how you say it. Or alternatively, negation P or Q. All right? Any questions about that at all? Good? All right, let's keep on going. Okay, so we now move on to what I consider to be the harder part of the section. We kind of have the first part I think was pretty basic. This next part is the hard stuff. This is where you got to pay super, super close attention. You got to take your time, learn the charts, memorize the charts, understand things. Here we go. So we're going to look at two topics here. And in order to understand them, you're going to need these tables. Just like last class we had a couple tables, you will need these tables to be successful. Okay? You have to have them. In a moment, I'll let you take a photo, but we're going to be looking at two additional topics. Conditional statements that are symbolized using an arrow in one direction, left to right, and biconditional statements, which are have a symbol as a double arrow back and forth. Okay, so if you need to, go ahead and take a photo. This is very, very important, absolutely necessary for you to be successful. You will need to remember these charts, the relationship between words. I'm going to explain them in a moment, but you must have these memorized and deeply understood. You know, section 3.1 and 3.2 and 3.3 even, this test is short, but there's some tables that you really got to have. And it's so important that for your success in this test next week, that you have the tables from 3.1 down, and then these right here. All right, we got a photo of it. All right, so let's understand what's going on. The top table, that is the table for understanding conditional statements. Okay? The bottom table, as you can see, there are double arrows here. The bottom table is what you need to understand biconditionals. Okay? Let's understand them, or at least begin our introduction into understanding them. Okay, your typical conditional statement will be something like, if something, then something else. Okay? Yes?
On the conditional, does it only go one way?
Always goes one way. It always goes, you'll never see an arrow go the other way.
Okay.
So it's always going to read left to right. Does that make sense? And that's a great question. So the arrow is always going to go left to right. Biconditional, it will go both ways. So this first case is the most common. If something, then something else. When you see that, you will immediately know to write the symbolic statement as P arrow Q. You with me so far? Okay? So that's one scenario where you'll use the arrow. Now, another one is the second one. Q if P. Alright, so this one's tricky. This says that whatever comes first before the if, that's actually going to go where? Second. Let's slow this down a bit. Okay? First case. If P, then Q. This one right here. If P, then Q. Whatever, if something, that goes first in your symbolic statement. Then the other thing, that goes second. Fine, no big deal, easy. However, in the second scenario, if you see only the word if, this is if then. You with me? This is only the word if, and it separates two things. When you see only the word if, and it splits two items, the item that comes before the word if is second in your symbolic statement. The item that is second after the word if goes first in your symbolic statement. Does that make sense? It's super tricky, and we're going to see this. We're going to work on that. If we see P, the word sufficient, then we know we can run it in order. First, then the second. First arrow, second item. However, if we see the word necessary, then it means that whatever comes first goes second, and whatever second comes first. Don't pay attention to the fact that it's always P arrow Q. That's not true. They just did this so that you can see how it's structured. But, for example, if I said A is necessary for B, what would it look like? B arrow A. Does that make sense, guys? Okay, that's the way you want to look at it. If I said B if A, it would be A arrow B. Because these two are your really, really special ones where whatever comes first is actually second. Whatever second actually comes first. And then finally, your last one right here is like that. If you see only if something, comma something, you've got it reversed. Again, it reverses. Whatever's first goes second, whatever's second goes first. Now, this is all kind of like impractical if we don't see a problem. So let's actually go to a problem and we'll come back to it, okay? So here we go. Let's go work a problem so we can see these in action. I'll come back to it, but try to reference it on your picture. Here we go. Here are our answer choices. Here's our problem. We have, these are your statements. Here's the actual problem that we need to put into symbolic form. Is it still recording?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. So here it is. If I study, then it is Tuesday. Is this your standard case?
Yes.
It is. If, then. In our standard case, it says if P, then Q. Does that make sense? Or if whatever, then the other. And whatever comes first, that gets to be put first. Whatever comes second, that goes second. So for example, we know that because it says if, then, we know our answer should be a conditional. It can't be A, it can't be D. Everybody agree? These are out. That's a biconditional. We haven't even talked about that yet. This is just a standard conjunction. Now, let's decide between B and C. It's B. The answer is indeed B because I study, that's P. It is Tuesday, that's Q. So it doesn't say anything about if I do not study, it is not Tuesday. That's why B is the correct answer. Does that make sense, guys? I know I went long way around that, but I kind of laid the framework so that when we get a little bit confused in a moment, we'll be okay. All right, let's take a look at this next one. All right, so here are our answer choices. It says, if I do not get an A, then the chair is not broken. Is this another standard conditional?
Yes.
It is. Pretty straightforward one because it says if, then. When we see if, then, we know immediately we're going to be a standard left to right. Okay, here we go. So, are all of these valid right now because we saw the if, then?
Yes.
Yeah, one arrow, one arrow, one arrow, one arrow going in one direction. Great. Okay, I do not get an A. What is that?
Negation.
It's negation P, right everybody? So which options are out now?
B and D.
B are out, D are out, or B and D are out. B is out, D is out. Okay, the chair is not broken. What's that?
Negation.
Negation Q, which means which is your only option? A. C is out. Does that make sense, guys? Any questions about that? We know it's an arrow, a conditional arrow, because we see if, then. We know it's negation P because it says I do not get an A. We know it's negation Q because it says the chair is not broken. That's why A is your correct choice. I'm taking my time going through this because it's really or can be really tricky. All right, so here we go. Let's get our answer choices here. All right. It says, this is not a rabbit if it's not a mammal. Is this your standard if-then statement? It's not. Is there even a then in this statement? No. So that means our normal routine is broken. Let's go back here, okay? You guys have got your chart. You see that there's a statement, if another statement. You with me so far? Right? Let's go back to our chart real quick here. So if we go back to our chart, is ours phrased if something then something? No, it's not. How is it phrased? Something if something. When it's phrased as something if something else like this, where does the first one go? It goes in the back. Notice, when it's phrased like this, whatever comes before the if actually goes second. Whatever comes after the if actually goes first. Does that make sense, guys? So, let's come back to our problem here, and let's look at this. And should the problem read, since this is not a rabbit, should it be negation P first?
No.
No, it should not. Notice, this is not a rabbit, that's negation P, okay? It's not a mammal, it's negation Q. Should our answer be negation P, arrow, negation Q? No, no, and no. So that means that you cannot have either of these as options. Does that make sense, guys? You don't want negation P first. Why? Because when there's just something, if something else, and something else goes first. Why is D not an answer even though it looks really good?
Because it's not.
It's not a biconditional. And so A is your correct answer. Does that make sense, guys? Okay? Because of the if, it means this goes first before the arrow based on our chart. Make sense, guys? All right? Now, if it said, if this is not a rabbit, then it's not a mammal, then you would put this, then that, in order. Okay? But it's not. Let's keep going. I really take my time through this, because this can be very tricky for some students. All right, here we go. Okay, so we see something different here. What is this? You have antlers. Why don't we just go and write this? You have antlers. What's that?
Q.
Q, right, everybody? This is Q. Only if, that's new, right? Only if you're not human. Let's answer just that part.
Negation.
Negation P. Okay, so go to your chart. We're looking for the only if case. Only if case. Okay, where is that? That is not here, not here, not here. It's the, which one? Is it the second to last or the last? It's the second to last. Because our statement was something only if something else. This one would say only, put the only if at the beginning. Does that make sense, guys? Okay, so if the only if is at the beginning, then you treat it like this. If the only if is in the middle, you treat it like this. What do they mean by that? Okay, if the only if is in the center, then you can do what?
Leave it.
Leave it left to right. Does that make sense, guys? Only if is in the center, the P goes first, the Q goes second. You with me so far? Okay. All right, so let's take a look at this. Let's come back to our problem. Okay, so the only if is in the center. Because the only if is in the center, we can read it left to right. Does that make sense, guys? So therefore, our answer cannot be a reversal, can it? So it's got to be Q, what?
Wait, I thought it was negation P first.
No.
No?
No.
I was reading left to right. Okay.
Left to right, because the only is in the center. So what's our answer? A, B, C, or D? It can't be C, can't be D.
Q negation.
It's not B, it is A. Does that make sense, guys? Has to be A. It's A because when the only if is in the center, you can go straight left to right with your conditional arrow. Make sense, guys? This is a really tricky concept. It always trips kids up, and so we got to make sure we know it. So if you have questions, please ask. All right. Okay, so we now move on to biconditionals. Let's understand biconditionals. Okay, so I'm going to come back to our chart. You're looking at your chart right now. We move on to biconditional problems. What's a biconditional? It means that both are happening and impacting each other. It's not just one has to happen then the other. It's that they both have to happen in order to be successful. So we have essentially kind of a unique statement that's pretty generic to all of them. If and only if. That is going to be kind of like the, sort of like if then is your classic conditional, sign of a conditional. If and only if is your classic sign of a biconditional. Now, what's great about biconditionals that makes them very easy, or much easier, is that it doesn't matter which way they're stated because both have to happen. So for example, if we see something, if and only if something else, you write it as P double arrow Q. If they say Q, if and only if something else, you can still write it in that same order. Does that make sense? In fact, it doesn't matter the order you write it in because it's if and only if. The reason why the order matters in conditional is that something has to happen before the other happens. Whereas with biconditionals, both have to occur in order for the outcome to whatever occur. Okay? So, another way to look at biconditionals, if P then Q, and if Q then P. Basically, what are they saying? If this, then this. They basically split it into both sides. Does that make sense? Whereas if and only if kind of sounds like just the arrow. So if you see something that says if P then Q and if Q then P, they're saying it here and backwards. If and only if kind of includes the forwards and backwards all in one little phrase. Does that make sense? Now, necessary and sufficient. P is necessary and sufficient for Q. Q is necessary and sufficient. The whole phrase, necessary and sufficient. Now, we didn't see it in our sample problems, but you can see it right here. P is sufficient for Q. Q is necessary for P. Notice, do you see both words in the same sentence? No, because that's conditional. They're in the same sentence here because necessary, sufficient, both directions. Does that make sense, guys? Okay. So now you know. Let's go take a look at our problem to see if we can answer it correctly. Is it still recording?
Yes.
Awesome, thank you. All right, so I eat bananas. It is snowing outside. Those are your statements. Here we go. I do not eat bananas. What's that?
Negation.
Negation, P. If and only if. What's that?
Double.
Double arrow, biconditional. That's how you know it. Does that make sense, guys? It is not snowing outside.
Negation Q.
And there's your answer. Let's go take a look at this. Is it A?
No.
Is it B?
Yes.
Yes. Not C, not D, because that's a single arrow conditional. Does that make sense, guys?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions about that at all? Okay, let's keep going. All right. The diner is closed. It is Sunday. There's our sentence. Okay. Being Sunday. What's that? It's just Q. Yeah. Really easy to say negation, but isn't it is Sunday the same as it is being Sunday?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's just Q. Necessary and sufficient.
Double.
It's your biconditional double arrow. For the diner being closed, or the diner being closed.
P.
Just P, right? And so our answer should be Q, biconditional, P. Which one is that?
B.
It's B. Starting to get the hang of it. The hardest ones are the conditionals. Those are tricky. The biconditionals, pretty easy. All right, let's keep going. All right, now, things change a little bit. In my opinion, this is the easier stuff. They give you the statements, they give you the symbolic statement, you need to put that into words. Okay? Not bad at all. Let's take a look. This is going to be one of these in words. Here we go, and you got to use these items here. Negation P, what's that?
The stove is not hot.
Stove is not hot. Okay, that eliminates which ones here?
A.
A, gone, because it has to be stove is not hot. Okay, what's this symbol right here in between? That is and. It's a conjunction, which eliminates which one?
B.
B is gone, because that's an or. That's a disjunction, and we're dealing with a conjunction. All right, Q, what is that?
Cheers.
Chair is broken. Which one does that eliminate? D. C is your answer. The stove is not hot, and the chair is broken. The stove is not hot, and the chair is broken. C is your correct answer. Does that make sense? Okay, any questions about that at all? All right, let's keep going. Okay, another one, just like we did. Here's our 4 choices. We need to rewrite this statement right here. Okay, so P is what?
The hat is red.
The hat is red. Are these all good?
Except for B.
Yes, that's out. And we technically can eliminate one more since we're already, well, no, well, let's leave alone. Okay, what's the middle one? Or, which means which 2 are gone now? B and C. This is an and, this is an if-then. A conditional gone, which leaves you with which one? A. Does that make sense, guys? Okay, any questions about that at all? Okay, really good. I like these. These are the easier ones. Okay, let's take a look at this one. Okay, we see our first conditional arrow. Let's see if we can connect the ideas from earlier. I got to give you all your choices. Here they are. Okay, so because we see the arrow, we need to be looking for what?
If then.
An if-then, right? Like I said a moment ago, conditionals are usually if thens. Biconditionals are usually if and only if. Okay, so if, thens, if, and only ifs. Does that make sense, guys? Okay, so here we go. Now, let's take a look here. Is A an option? No, because it's saying if and only if. That's not it. Okay? If, then. If, then, if, then. These are all options. So all of these are good. Now let's go look at the individual items. What's P? It is time to sleep. Is B good?
Yes.
Yeah. Is C good?
Yes.
Is D good? No, that's out.
It's not hot.
Exactly. Has nothing to do with the stove being not hot. Because we're dealing with if then, we can run it in the normal order. Okay? Negation Q.
The
Stove
stove is not hot.
is not hot, which makes C out. B is the correct answer. Does that make sense, guys?
It's a little silly.
Yeah. Random jump being put together. All right. Let's take a look at this next one. All right. So, is this a conditional?
No.
It is a biconditional, right? So you should not be looking for anything that is if then. You should be looking for if and only if stuff. Okay? So which ones are out?
A and B.
A and B are gone. If then's not a part of it. Both C and D look good. Okay, here we go. The P is what?
The chair is broken.
Chair is broken. Which one is out now?
D.
D is gone. You're at C. Does that make sense, guys? Okay? Very, very doable. All right, let's keep going. Okay, now let's talk about this. Anytime you see a negation, and I'm going to put this as a little special note here, anytime you see a negation in front of a parentheses, like you see in this one right over here. When you see a negation in front of parentheses, what you can do is always start your problem or answer with, it is not true that ... and ... connects you with whatever was in the parentheses. Isn't that true? Well, whatever, not true. Whatever way you want to look at it. If I say negation this, I'm basically saying whatever that is, not that. Make sense? Okay, so if you look at this, A and B are gone just from knowing how to phrase that. Does that make sense, guys?
Mm-hmm.
Now let's take a look at this. What is Q disjunction P saying?
It is time to sleep.
It is time to sleep, or it is Tuesday. So, let's take a look. Which one is it? C or D?
C.
It's C. It is not true that, and here it is. It is time to sleep, Q, or disjunction, it is Tuesday, P. Does that make sense, guys? Any questions about that at all? That's an important one to remember. Okay, let's keep going. All right, another one that we need to put in words. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to skip this because you guys know how to do that. It's very similar to what we've done before. I'm going to skip that one, similar to what we've done. Now, let's take a look at this one. This is important. We do need to hit this because it has 3 of them. All right, let's take a look at this. Is it still recording, LaDonna?
Yes.
Awesome, thank you. All right, if the chair is broken or the play is not boring, then I study. All right, so we now are going back to writing your symbolic statements. We have 3 statements here that need to be done. This is a lot easier than what you think it is. Okay, let me give you your first hint. Always look for the comma if there is one. The comma helps you know how to break up your problem. Okay? You see that it's an if, then, meaning that you have to have some conditional arrow. You also see that, because of the comma, that all this, where do you think that should go? Where's it going to go? Before or after the arrow? It's going to go somewhere before. And this I study is going to go where?
After.
It's going to go after the arrow. So when you're doing your problems, when you get to 19 towards the end, you're going to get to ones that they give you a big sentence and you have to translate that. Don't get overwhelmed. It's not a big deal. Simply do the following. First, go look for a comma, if any, and that comma is going to tell you how the problem's broken up. Then, look for any other cues. If then is going to be an indicator that you're dealing with conditional that breaks up your problem. Okay? The stuff before the comma will usually go before, first. The stuff after the comma usually comes after. Let's go do this. The chair's broken. What's that?
P.
P. Or
V.
V. Yeah. Disjunction. The play is not boring.
Negation.
Q.
You got it. Negation Q. Now, this is a lot of stuff right here. When you happen to have a bunch of stuff going on, what do you think we should do with these? Parentheses. Isn't that true? All of this is going to impact this. That's why parentheses are valuable. I study. What's that?
R.
How come I don't put the R in parentheses?
Do you want to do that one first?
Yes, we want to do this one first, but also it's just an R, right? These are working together, aren't they? They're things that have to come together. So if you see two or more items that are connected, put them in parentheses if you have a problem such as this. But because there's only one item here, there's no need for parentheses. But if there were multiple items like I study and I do not go to the gym, then that would be in parentheses. Make sense? Okay? All right, very good. Let's take a look at this one. Okay. All right, look for the comma first, right? Where's the comma? After the I work hard, right? So that means that I work hard should be somewhere at the beginning of your problem. Does that make sense, guys? We see if and only if. What is that? Biconditional, double arrow. And then we see some stuff after that. Where's that going to go? After the biconditional arrows. That helps us break the problem up. So, I work hard. What's that?
R.
R. Do I need parentheses around it?
No.
No, it's just an R. Right? I eat bananas.
P.
And
Conjunction.
conjunction. The chair is not broken.
Negation. Q.
Negation Q. Does this need parentheses?
Yes.
Yeah, because it's multiple things being worked. There's your answer. Pretty reasonable, doable. Okay, let's keep rolling. Doing a great job here. All right, we're going to put this into words here. So now we go back. We're going back and forth between words and symbols, symbols and words. Let's go take a look at this. Okay, so here it is. Let's see if we can put that into words, knowing what we just came from. Okay. Should this be a conditional statement?
Yes.
Yes.
How do we know that?
Arrow.
It's the arrow. So we should see an if, then. Are all these if thens? If, then. If, then.
Yeah.
If, then. They all seem to be good so far, right? You guys with me so far? Okay. All right. Now, should this Q and P right here, Q conjunction P, should that come before the then or after the then? It should come before, right? Because it should be if this, then this. Everybody agree? Okay, so let's go find it. Q and P. What is that? Q, we finished writing, and the temperature is below 30. All of that should be before the word then. Which one can we eliminate?
A.
For sure A. What else? B as well. Take a look. This says if we have finished writing or. That's it. That eliminates it. Gone. This one is wrong because why? They didn't put the temperature before that and connect it to the writing, so that's out. So that's why C is the answer. Here we go. If we have finished writing and the temperature is below 30, there it is, comma. That breaks up the whole thing. Then R, we go to the slope. Make sense, guys?
Yes.
Okay, really, really good. Still recording? Okay, perfect. All right, here we go. Let's do another one. All right, here's our next one. Q, conjunction, parentheses, P, conditional R. Now here's a question. Is this problem an if-then overall? Overall?
No, maybe.
No.
The parentheses leave me alone.
The parentheses tell you that you have an if-then on the side. What's going on here is we have Q and then an if-then. Not if something, then something else. So, as you can see, which two are gone right away?
B and C.
B and C are gone. Because that P conditional R is off to the side in its own parentheses, it's not a big P arrow R, you can't have an if-then. Let's take a look at this. Let's explain it. A is the correct answer. We have finished eating. Is that Q? It is, right? There's the Q. And there's the conjunction. And then here is the stuff in parentheses. If the temperature is below 30, there's P. The temperature is below 30. Then, there's the other part. There's your arrow. We go to the slope, R. Does that make sense, guys? Okay. This is a really tricky one. When you get to 22, read it super, super carefully. All right? Very, very good.
So
Let's
you
keep.
should not put the comma
Sorry, one more time. Let's go.
before then if it's by itself.
Let me scroll down so that we can connect these two. Say that one more time.
Because see how in B it says the temperature is below 30, then we go to the slope? Do you have to put, do you want to do it without the comma? Is the question.
It's
The first
optional.
one
The
is
comma,
if
the
it's-
comma is sometimes and sometimes not going to be there.
Okay.
That was something I just used to kind of like help you, but the reason why you don't always have to have a comma.
Okay.
It just helps break things up to show you. But like in our answer, they didn't put a comma there. So don't always expect it to be there. Just pay attention, just like this comma right here.
Okay.
This helps you see that the problem was broken up, but it's not everything.
Alright.
Okay? It's tricky. That one's not easy. Okay? Alright, let's take a look at this one. Let's see if we can do this. Probably gonna be one of our last ones. Let's see. Okay, here we go. So here is the statement, negation Q, conditional arrow, negation P, disjunction, negation R. Is this an overall if-then statement?
Yes.
It is, right? Okay, so let's look at this. All of them look like they're good. They're all if-thens, right? All right. What should go before the then?
Negation Q.
Exactly. Think of it like if this, then this part. Does that make sense, guys? Okay, so if negation Q, then all of this. And they didn't put it in parentheses, even though they probably should have. But doesn't matter. Okay, what's negation Q?
We finished working. but
We
have not finished.
We have not finished working. So, that's it. Which means we can eliminate which one?
They're all, well, C. 'cause-
C is gone. If we have not finished working or blah, blah, blah. No. It has to stop at if we have not finished working. Does that make sense, guys? So that's it. Okay, then, here we go. Let's do this. Negation P, what's that?
The temperature is not below 30.
Temperature is not below 30. Is it then an or an and? Or. B is gone. A is the correct answer. If we have not finished working, then the temperature is not below 30, or we do not go to the ice rink. And there it is. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Questions about that at all? Okay. Okay, let's take a look at this one. We should do this. Very important. So, I want to show you is the following. They're going to give you a sentence. This is nothing new. But instead of writing out P, Q, R, they put it all in this kind of long sentence. What I recommend that you do is rewrite that sentence off to the side so that you can see it. P is I have the time. Okay? You guys following me? This is the only difference. The Q statement is what? I like the actors. Q, I like the actors. Okay? And then what? R, I miss the show. I miss the show. Why is this important that you do? Because we're used to just seeing it this way, aren't we? Mm-hmm. And by seeing it this way, it helps us break things down a little bit easier. Once we write it down, it's just like any other problem. Okay? If I have the time or I like the actors, then I do not miss the show. Okay. It's definitely not A. Everybody agree? What else is it not?
D?
It's not D either. Why? Because if, then, and here's the stuff before the arrow, here's the stuff after the arrow. Does that make sense, guys? Let's go figure it out. I have the time or I like the actors. I have the time is P. Or disjunction. I like the actors. Q. All that should be in parentheses. Which one is our answer without even having to go forward? C is the answer. And of course, arrow, I do not miss the show. I do not miss the show. And there's your answer. Does that make sense, guys? Mm-hmm. Kind of tricky. All right, I think that's almost everything. Yeah, this is the same kind of concept. I'm not going to do it. You guys can do it. And this is the same kind of concept. Okay? So that takes care of that. That's 3.2. Hang in there just a moment.